Good evening and welcome to the regular City Council meeting for Monday, December 9th, 2024, being called to order at this time. First thing is rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item of business this evening is to approve the agenda. Administrator Prafke, I believe there's some changes to the agenda.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we don't really have any changes to the agenda, but I do have a couple of consent agenda items that we need to fix that I can cover when we get to that point. And I think that should do it for this part of it anyway.
Thank you. Hearing that, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion, there's a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. They are attached in the packet and were posted online. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes at this time? Hearing no additions or corrections, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there, and there is a second? That's not a roll call, is it? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the partial vacation of an easement at 1503 Winona Street. Ben Baker will present. Thank you. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Pettis. So tonight, we will be going through a public hearing, and then just a little bit later on in the agenda, we'll be considering approval of what we're going to be talking about here. So there was notice that was posted. It was published twice in the newspaper and put on the city's website the last couple weeks, and that was for the public hearing for tonight. It was sent out to the adjacent property owners as well. On page 37, I'll just briefly go kind of through the memo. A couple years ago, the owners of 1125 Lloyd Lane actually asked for approval of RLS number 79, and that was to create a 67-foot wide residential lot and a 25-foot wide buffer strip. That was approved. However, because of the typical lot sizes along Winona Street, which is 90 to 110 feet wide, there wasn't too much interest in that narrow lot. So recently, back in August, the owners actually petitioned the city again for another RLS number 82 that was approved, and that established a 92-foot lot, which was the original size of that lot, which we call 1503 Winona Street. So that did allow for a 78-foot wide house to be put on that. You have a 7-foot setback on one side and a 7-foot setback on another side. But what was recently found was that there was actually a 12-foot easement established with the standard lumber number 5 addition. So that 12-foot easement runs along the southern property line as shown on the map. So that 78-foot wide house was no longer able to be put on that lot. It would have to be 6 feet shorter. So it still meets setbacks, but it would be encroaching into the easement. So with that find, it was the applicant's request or petition to vacate the northern part, the northern 6 feet of the southerly 12-foot easement there. And so essentially what's happening is we're just going to shift that whole 12-foot easement to be centered on the southern property line. The applicants or the petitioners have already signed giving the city over 6 feet on the north side of 1125 Lloyd Lane. So then that'll give the full 12-foot easement, half on 1125, half on 1503. So with that, staff has reviewed this and has actually called in a ticket for locates, and we had our public utilities look at that as well. There are no public or private utilities running in through there, so I guess with that, we'll review it later on the agenda.
And This time, as part of the public hearing process, the applicants are in the audience. If they would like to make a presentation, they are more than welcome to, but they do not need to if they choose not to. Up to them.
Do not want to.
Okay, moving on. Next is public comment. This is the time for the public to make public comment to discuss this proposal. Do I need to call to open the public hearing? At this time, I would open the public hearing for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forth and speak on the proposal before us? Anyone? Anyone? Hearing none, I would move to, or I would close the public hearing at 7:06 p.m. That's it, right?
That's it?
Okay. Thank you. And that will be taken up on new business, on the first item under new business.
Yes.
This proposal. Thank you, Ben. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda items, pages 14 through 36. Mr. Prafke.
Mayor Pro Tem and members, this is where I have just a couple of modifications that I'd like to provide clarity to. First of all, under item number 1, the appointments for recreation leader, the correct wage in 2024 for these positions is $13.50, not $12.50 as listed for each of those three on item number 1 on page 34. In addition to that, I'd like to bring attention to and get approval from the council to include in the minutes that I had made an error in that the first purchase under item number 3, a 3-point PTO stump grinder, was originally planned to be part of an equipment certificate. Originally, you may recall that we budgeted approximately $20,000 for that as a part of an equipment certificate. Therefore, under your internal rules, not a state audit or state rule, but your internal rules, that should have a separate agenda item. I'd appreciate your deference to allow it to be approved as a part of the consent agenda so we don't have to put together a lot of additional paperwork, but would like to call that out as a part of the minutes for the meeting, if that's okay. Again, this came in approximately $8,400 less than we had originally budgeted for this item. Everything else on pages 34 and 35 is correct, and we'd hope that you would take action to approve the resolution.
Any discussion or any council members seeking additional information?
This is regarding consent agenda.
Consent agenda, yes.
Quick question. So, in relation to the email that Ed sent earlier today about not appointing anyone new to the tourism board, did we want to go through with appointing someone new to the tourism board still?
Yeah, if I could, I think the most appropriate action is for you to continue to work towards the plan. That would require an ordinance change to reduce the number. And then I think we work through how that all fits, or is there attrition, or how we make that work. But yeah, I did get the chance to read that email. But I think that's best done as a part of further deliberation and then action on the part of the council to modify the ordinance.
Okay.
Any additional questions or comments on the items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the additions and corrections that were proposed by Administrator Prafke?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Ram?
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld?
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye. Do I say that or do I? Motion carries?
Yep.
Is that me?
That's
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next item is visitors. At this time, are there any visitors within the audience who would like to comment on any items that are included on the agenda? Anyone? Seeing no one. Next item is general visitor comments. Any visitor within the audience who'd like to comment on any item that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to unfinished business, which we have none, and we will then move into new business. First item on new business is the partial easement vacation at 1503 Winona Street. Ben Baker.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Pettis. On page 42 is the resolution that is, complements the memo that was in public hearing that we had just a little bit ago. There were no public comments. So on the bottom of page 42, the benefit of this particular partial easement vacation would be, it's not necessary for public utilities, not for private utilities. There's no future need for the easement. A 6-foot easement or a 12-foot easement will still slide towards the south. The easement vacation will allow a new home or garage to be constructed along the 1503, 78 feet wide. It will fill in a vacant lot, which will utilize public utilities and contribute to property taxes. And the document will be recorded at Nicollet County and help with future title searches. So with that, it would be staff's recommendation to approve the proposed easement vacation.
There is a resolution on page 42 and 43 that has been prepared for us. Are there any questions from the council? Hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Yep. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Ramp?
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld?
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item for new business is River Edge Hospital and Clinic C-arm purchase. Paula Meskin, CEO of River's Edge.
See, you thought you could get me to stop coming, but they just keep finding things. So, as noted in the memo that was sent, the hospital is recommending a purchase of a new C-arm. And to simplify this down a little bit, it's an X-ray machine that's portable. It goes into the operating room. It's shaped like a C, so that it can go over the top of the patient and also underneath the patient. We use this in our hip procedures, we use this in our spine procedures, and we're getting to the point where we've gotten busy enough that we are having trouble scheduling patients to be able to manage the 2 C-arms that we already have without delays in cases. So we have looked at several options, and this is a GE Healthcare C-arm with a small flat panel. Will be able to be used for the cases that we need it for. We would be using hospital cash at the price of $172,350.
Mayor members, because this falls within your ordinance and your rules of over $100,000, the hospital has to solicit your approval prior to purchase. As Paula mentioned, this was approved by the hospital commission and was recommended to move forward for your approval, and is hospital's paying for it.
Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, there is a resolution on page 47 authorizing the purchase of this C-arm in the amount of $172,350.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Weisenfeld?
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paula.
Thanks, Paula.
Next item under new business is the 2024 final levy and 2025 general fund budget. Sally Vogel. Welcome, Sally.
Mayor Pro Tem Pettis and City Council, we're here tonight to ask approval for 2 resolutions. One for the 2024 final levy payable in 2025, and the resolution approving the 2025 budgets for the general fund, SPPA, which is Public Access, Library, and Community Center. The memo begins on page 48 through 55 of the packet, and then on pages 55 through 66, there's tables, graphs, and charts, and then detailed memo is on page 67 to 150. To summarize what's in all that fun reading, I'm here to summarize that. The final levy for 2024 needs to be certified on or before December 31st, 2024. If we don't approve it tonight, then we will have to call a special meeting to get the approval, so we approve it before the 31st of December. The levy amount we are asking for approval is $4,317,473, which is the same amount we approved for the preliminary levy back on September 23rd. The projected tax increase for 2024, tax capacity increase, is $8,644,407, an increase of $29,512, or 0.3% over 2023. This did decrease from the preliminary levy. At that point, we were calculating a 3% increase, but now the county has finalized tax capacity calculation. The total tax levy increase is $269,150, or 6.65% over 2023. The main driver behind these were wage increases and benefits. The city tax levy rate is increasing to 49.95 versus 46.99. Part of that, again, is due to the net tax capacity becoming lower, so the rate is higher for 2024. General fund budget is found on page 50 of the packet. 2025 budget is not balanced. There's a net operating loss of $6,043. Reserve balances are projected to end 2025 at 47.4%, or $4,623,188, a decrease from the projected year-end balance of $28,543. We do have an equipment certificate, which has two parts. There's a $310,000 over 10 years for the community center, and that is for the transfer switch upgrade and building control software upgrade. And then there's $372,000 over 5 years for Public Works for street and parks equipment. As always, any budgeted purchases above $25,000 will come back to council for approval before purchases are made. And all unbudgeted items will come to city council for purchasing approval. The enterprise fund gets 6.5% transferred from enterprise funds, and that will continue in 2025. There are rec fee increases planned to offset some part-time services at guest services and coverage at the community center. We are adding a full-time addition to staff for sustainability and a communications person in 2025. And there will be the full year impact of the human resources person added in 2024. Other special revenue funds, library, the levy is $437,208, up $25,000 from the 2024 budget. Program and services remain the same for the library. Operating expenses will be $51,580 higher than revenues. Again, the main driver here is employee costs, and we will continue to watch this in future years. The community center retired its debt in 2021, and same as in 2023 and 2024, $170,000 of the levy is going to go to the community center, and expenses for the community center will be $113,614 higher than revenue in 2025. This includes $99,000 for capital expenditures for bathroom renovations and roof repairs. Again, this building is 20 years old, so we do have to put some maintenance into the building each year. General fund summary shows that the 2025 budget, again, reserve balance will be $4,623,188, or 47.4%, which is well within our target reserves of 35 to 50%. We are asking you to approve the resolution on page 151 and 152 for the final levy for 2024 collectible and 2025 taxes in the amount of $4,317,473. What this means is if property owner's property value hasn't changed from 2023, the city's share of a tax bill on a $250,000 home will increase $23.13 for tax year 2025. Questions?
Any additional questions or comments? Josh?
Can you just, I know you outlined this for us last week, but can you just talk a little bit about why the net tax capacity went down this year in comparison to last year and in comparison to our projections?
The largest contributing factor to that, as we've talked with the county, was due to the homestead credit that was passed by the legislature. So $18 million worth of our property is helping the homeowners by reducing what they're paying tax on the property value. So that's the largest contributing factor there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there additional questions on the presentation?
Mayor Pro Tem and members, if I could. I know all of you have seen this material at least a half a dozen times, I believe. And so there's been a substantial amount of information that's available. I do want to mention to the public that even though you might not talk about it for hours and hours tonight, you have prior to this. I think it's also important to note that everything that you see as a part of the council is available online within this packet or the previous workshop packet or the cycle before that or the cycle before that, and so people can certainly follow along. There's both just a ton of numbers that Sally puts together in some tables and graphs, but there's also a narrative that provides really what I would consider the work plan for the general fund budget and these special fund budgets. And so I know it's really important to you to be good stewards of these resources, and the information that's contained in here provides information to the public that is readily available. We hope for everyone to be able to see what you're going to do, what the work plan is, and what does it take financially to make that happen.
Thank you, Sally, for your diligence and willingness to work with the council to make sure that we minimize the increase as much as possible. Nobody wants to see their taxes go up, and they want to make sure that we're doing the best job we can to decrease that amount as much as possible.
With that being said, is there a motion to approve the resolution adopting final 2024 tax levy collectible in 2025 as found on page 151?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. With that, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp.
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And then, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we have a second resolution related to this one on page 153. And so the first resolution related to the levy. The second resolution is approving the budgets for these. And so again, that's found on page 153.
With that, is there any additional questions or comments from the council on the budget for next year? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution approving the general fund, special revenue funds, debt service funds, capital funds, and agency funds for the 2025 fiscal year as found on page 153?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
And a second. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp.
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Sally. Next item on the agenda, we stick with Sally for the stormwater budget and rate changes for 25 and 26.
Mayor Pro Tem and City Council, we were asking you to approve the 2025-2026 stormwater budget and associated rate increases effective January 1st, 2025 and January 1st, 2026. The memo begins on page 154 of the packet. State statute does not require adoption of approval of budgets for enterprise funds. However, we believe that having approved budgets provides City Council and staff with transparency and work direction. Attached are documents providing background and recommendations for the years 2025 and 2026. Stormwater budget includes stormwater management, planning, reviewing, inspection, construction of city right-of-ways and public improvements, inspection of construction activities within the city, locating owned utilities in the right-of-way, repair and maintenance of stormwater treatment and piping infrastructure within our community. The fund is supported by a utility charge first implemented in 2007, and that is billed to all properties within the city based on the acreage and the type of property. Rates were increased in 2023 and 2024, and for those years, there was also $100,000 each year transferred from wastewater fund to the stormwater fund. This transfer will not take place in the 2025-2026 budgets. The budget changes for 2025 and 2026 is based on the residential equivalency factor of 1 acre. Currently is being charged at $30.02 per acre. The rate for January 1st, 2025 will increase to $33.02 in 2025 and to $36.32 in 2026. Page 158 of the packet shows current rates and proposed rates. Most residential or all residential lots are based on a 0.333 residential equivalency factor. So what that means of the 3302, the rate will go from $10.01 to $11.01 in 2025, and then increase to $12.11 on January 1st of 2026. This increase will generate an additional revenue of approximately $77,423 in 2024 over the projected 2024 projected year end, and $69,665 for 2026. Wages for this department increased by 3% for 2025 and 3% for 2026. Health insurance increased 6% for 2025 and 10% is projected for 2026. Other operations are also seeing a few higher costs due to some inflation factors. This stormwater includes a foreman and 2 infrastructure technicians and then seasonal workers in the summer. Stormwater also contributes 6.5% of their gross sales to the general fund for 2025 and 2026. Again, because we live on a river, stormwater and emissions into the river are regulated by the state and National Pollution Control, so we're staying within the guidelines of what's in there. The 10-year capital plan is found on page 165 of the packet. 165 and 166 shows the breakout of projects of these details. The capital plan for 2025 is $131,500 for 2025 and $270,000 for 2026. Goals, we strive to have operating income, which means it's positive before capital expenditures, and since 2016 we have had operating income, and this continues to range between $586,000 in 2017 to a low of $58,481 for 2025 budget. 2026 operating income is projected to be at $94,356. The reserve balance we're striving to attain is 4 months of expenses, which at the end of 2026 will be $359,673. The actual reserve at the end of 2024 is projected to be $310,524. We're asking you to approve the resolution for stormwater rate increases on pages 167 and 168 at a residential equivalency factor of 33.02 per acre for January 1st and $36.32 per acre as of January 1st, 2026. Again, we've gone through this multiple times at workshops and discussed it, so.
With that, are there any questions from the council on Sally's presentation? Council member.
Maybe I misheard you. But for the 2026 ending in the packet, it says the reserve balance would be 210,293?
Yeah, I was talking about operating income at that point,
Oh,
Carrie.
okay, sounds good.
Yep.
I just wanted to point out that at the workshop as a council, we discussed different options for rate increases, and you know, we're here today with what's being recommended. Based on that discussion, even though that's not really hitting our reserve target,
We're working in the right direction.
we're working in the right direction, and so you would say that's still a healthy reserve balance?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Are there any additional questions from the council for Sally? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution adopting 2025 and 2026 stormwater rate schedule as found on page 167?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye. Motion carries.
And then we have a resolution on page 169 approving the budgets for 2025 of $1,115,634 and $1,862,440 for 2026. Again, any expenditure over $25,000 will come back to council for approval.
Are there any additional questions for Sally? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution adopting the 2025-2026 Stormwater Fund budget as found on page 169?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
You did a second,
Councilmember
didn't you?
Weisenfeld seconded.
Oh, yeah. That's
Okay.
Should have moved it then.
Got that?
You got it? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep, Councilmember Ramp,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
The resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you, Sally.
Next item is the Gorman Park Improvement Phase 1 solicitation of bids. Public Works Director, Moulton, and John from Recreation Department, John Stutzman. Welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem and City Council, thank you for approving the general fund budget, so we're here to spend some of that down a little bit for you.
Only took a minute.
As you're aware, for the last 11 months, we've been working with Gorman Park Improvements. This is a plan that we engaged with Damon Farber to do a lot of the work. We have gone through open houses and community events, trying to get a grasp on what the council and the community would like to have built there. We've got a lot of great feedback, and we think we've got an outstanding project. Damon Farber has done an outstanding job of working with John and myself, getting things organized on this. The Parks Board has looked at this on multiple occasions, and mostly through the fall, it's been our topic of discussion going forward. We've worked out a lot of the details, both on phases 1 and 2. As you're aware, we have funding for phase 1. We are still looking for funding for phase 2. So at this time, what our recommendation is that we are allowed to receive bids for phase 1. We'll bring that information back to you roughly 60 to 75 days from now, somewhere in that neighborhood. Hopefully we'll have some bids that are comparable to the funding that we have available. And then what we'll do is work to purchase the equipment off of the state bid. So this phase 1 is a little bit unique in the manner that we are looking to hire a contractor to come in and do the work of installation of the park equipment, the playground surface, and other amenities along there. The city of St. Peter will also then purchase off the state bid the equipment and playground accessories that will go into this park. That saves us about 5% on $500,000. So we're comfortable doing that and working through that process. That is something that will also come back to you at that time. And then the goal here would be to get the work completed on phase 1 in 2025. And we have a resolution that would allow us to go out and receive bids.
Are there any questions or comments from the council members?
Pete, in case we do have someone who's paying attention, going back a couple of years ago, why did we start this process of replacing Tremendous?
Mostly because the playground was pretty beat up, had lived its useful life, and the community was pretty demanding on what they needed down there to keep the community as a central focus in this area. We have a very busy community center, as John can attest to, and we needed something that would be a community attraction. And we also wanted to upgrade some of the play areas that would meet more of the ADA requirements of our community.
So even if we were to rebuild Tremendous today, as it was, it would not be in compliance?
That's correct.
And you'd indicated also that phase 1 is fully funded at this point in time. Can you elaborate on how it is fully funded?
Todd, go ahead.
So, Mayor members, we do have ARP funding, so this is funding that came to us through COVID, and the council talked long and hard about ensuring that those funds were set aside. It's one-time money for one-time use. And so we have a little bit over $1.2 million that you have set aside and you earmarked for this project. The hope is that the bids will come in with the equipment purchase and the labor and work that needs to occur that we'll be contracting for under that amount. Phase 2 is yet to be funded. We've tried to solicit funds in a number of different areas and we'll continue to work on that. But certainly from a staff perspective, we believe that there is a more dramatic and shorter time frame needed to replace Tremendous. I also want to mention one other thing in relation to that, if I may, Mayor Pro Tem. The other thing that I'll mention is that Tremendous will remain available as the new playground is built. So it's not that this area will be without playground. To be clear though, what we often call the orange and tan playground will be out of commission because that's the area where the new playground will be built. And then one other item, if people are wondering, that I think has been core not only to what the council's talked about, what the Parks Board has talked about, but what you've heard from the community is it's important to recognize the history and the emotional significance that Tremendous had at the time. And so there are plans to continue that through in the new playground. And so we're excited about that, and I think, again, from a staff perspective, we understand how important that is, and the council has emphasized that on numerous occasions.
I also have a question or comment for Pete and John. Dustin and I both serve on the Parks Board, and at our last Parks Board meeting, this plan was reviewed by the Parks Board members present, and it was supported by the members present, and they're in support of doing this project. They're in support of the design as proposed, and had some really good comments on it. So I believe we went out and we tried to get as much public information as we could and much public comment as we could, and we took those ideas and developed this plan. And I'm really looking forward to getting this project moving forward. It's going to be 2 years of having our playground kind of messed up down there. We do have lots of daycares and schools in this area, but when it's done, I think we'll be very pleased with the project that is put forward. Are there any additional comments or questions from the council? If there are none, I would ask for a motion to approve the resolution authorizing receipt of bids for Gorman Park improvements as found on page 172.
So moved.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp.
Aye.
Motion carries. Motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next item is the carbon reduction program bid reduction. Public Works Director Moulton, please.
Mayor Pro Tem and City Council, as you're aware, we solicited grant funds to work on a carbon reduction program. Really what we were looking for was trying to assist our community with installation of electric vehicle charging stations in a couple of different locations. We did have Bolton and Mink prepare a plan and specification for that, where we invested about $22,000 to make that happen. When the bids came in, we did have a few bids that did come in, but they came in either incomplete or very high in overall cost. Our engineer's estimate was about $108,000, and our one bidder that met all the requirements was about $183,435. The grant was limited to a certain percentage of the project, and as you can see here, we would have additional funding out of pocket, which we did not budget for. We anticipated that the project would come in within the guidelines of what we had available for funding. With this request, because of the overrun on the cost, we're requesting that you reject all bids. City staff would then try to look at dividing this project into maybe a smaller project. Since we've already got the engineering done, we could look at something that might be able to fit our budget in a different area or a different way, and we would try to move forward from that point of view. And there's
Are there any questions from the council of the Public Works Director? Hearing none, there is a resolution rejecting the bids for the 2024 carbon reduction program, electric vehicle charging station found on page 175. Is there a motion to approve that resolution? So motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp.
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries. Next item is the 2025 equipment certificate for a tractor.
Mayor Pro Tem and City Council, this is an equipment certificate purchase. As you're aware, we have been looking at a variety of ways to improve our service to the community. In the past, what we have done is we have rented a tractor from a neighboring implement dealer, and we've been spending about $12,000 a year on leaf collection with renting of the tractor here. We found multiple uses for this, and as you guys have noticed in the budget, we also have a PTO-driven stump grinder that we're looking at this unit driving. And our parks foreman has gone out and looked for a variety of tractors in this size that would meet our overall goal of spending less than $115,000. We did find 3 tractors that met that criteria. We did find one that was just a little cheaper, however, it's out in Utah. And so, in order to get it here, it probably wouldn't be much cheaper than buying one from the local John Deere dealers. I think the Midwest Machinery is out of Northfield, Minnesota, which has a 5125M John Deere with about 13 hours on it. That meets our criteria and will serve us for a long time. As I mentioned, this is equipment certificate purchase between the Parks and the Environmental Services. And so they'll be splitting the overall payback of that tractor. I'm asking that you approve the resolution on page 177.
Are there any questions, comments from the council? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution authorizing purchase of a 2022 John Deere 5125M tractor on the equipment certificate as found on page 177?
So moved.
Motion is there a second and a second? With that, please call the roll.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Ram,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Next item is the 2025 fee schedule modifications. Todd, it's yours.
Members, the information starts on page 178, and we really have two fee schedules in your packet you may have noticed. One is a redlined version, and then one would be the new version. So you'll see that included. The new version is in the form of a resolution for you to approve. These fees would be effective for the 2025 year. The council's talked about this on a couple of separate occasions at workshops. This is something that we do really on an annual basis, and not all fees change. We have some cycles for some of the things as we move forward, but really this is intended to make sure that for the most part, on an every year basis, we're keeping up with costs related to providing the services or the equipment or the materials or the man hours that are provided as a part of this process. Again, the resolution is included in your packet. I do have one change for you. In the red line version, it's on page 188, and in what I would call the clean version, it's on page 206 under utilities. You'll see there under item number 102. We have that listed at $8. It's been brought to my attention that that should actually be $6.50. $6.50 on page 206 on the final resolution. Some of the most notable things that are relatively new to you and to this resolution and to the fee schedule is licensing related to breweries and their operations at the retail level. Beekeeping, which is an ordinance that you passed, a modification to your ordinance that you passed, which will come into effect on January 1st. I will mention that although I'm not sure it's on your website yet, the application documentation is completed, and if it's not on your website today, it will be in the very near future, so people can apply. And then cannabis local registration fees. Now, this is one that you've talked about in a number of different occasions, and the state statute sets some limits, both lower limits and upper limits related to this. There was a question at your workshop related to, well, how does this work if, as an example, someone has a company or someone has a registration, what we used to call licensing, but now under the state statute is being called registration. If they have a registration to grow, but then also a registration to sell at retail. Those things would occur at potentially two separate locations under the rules, but those are two separate registrations through the state of Minnesota. And so this supposes, I believe that I'm right. If I'm wrong, we can come back to this, but I believe that in that instance, the state would review that differently and would provide us with two separate registrations. And so this would suppose that as two separate registrations, each registration would have to pay the fee and receive the approval of the city council through your regular process. So that's what's contemplated as a part of that, and that I hope is worded well within the body of the fee schedule. And that's the direction that we took through the legislation that was provided in the process through OCM, Office of Cannabis Management. With that, we have a couple of items that have been removed due to ordinance changes like dog and cat licensing, which you no longer have in place. And then we have some other things that are just changed as a matter of course on a regular basis. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, at least to the best of my ability. If you don't pass this tonight, it's not the end of the world, but it is kind of nice to have it in place for January 1st. And so again, the information is included within your packet. The end of the resolution for your fees is on page 215. So that would be the clean version. And Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, my hope would be is that if a motion is put forward to approve this, that it would be with that change on item number 102 from $8 to $6.50.
Hearing that, are there any questions or comments from the council on Todd's presentation? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution adopting updated municipal fee schedules as found on page 198 through 215, noting the change of the $6.50?
So moved.
So motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is the 2025 non-union, non-contract employee wages.
Mayor and members, this is something that you review on a regular basis on multiple occasions and is part of your budget planning process. The recommendation from my office is to approve the attached resolution, generally providing for a 3% pay modification for all non-union, non-contract, full-time employees and part-time employees, which are generally listed on the resolution as a scale. So to be clear, the number that's listed in the resolution for those part-time employees is the number that they would be paid in the 2025 year. The 3% does not apply to those. I can go through a lot of discussion, and we've talked about this in the past, about various processes that the council has used previously, and I'm happy to do that. The most significant issues that I think we see from an employment standpoint is competition within the marketplace and keeping employees, not only retaining them, but attracting new employees. And so that drives much of my thinking here, along with the concern that I have that at times it is possible for employers, including local units of government, to be stagnant in making it more viable for employees who do a great job for you to leave because they can find additional dollars someplace else. So in many of these areas, there's marketplace data that I analyze, and we try and stay within a standard deviation of about plus or minus 10% and make changes going forward. Again, generally, all your non-union, non-contract employees would receive a 3% increase, and then there's a list of anomalies that are provided. Again, many of these are driven by marketplace and what we see in the marketplace. So as an example, with police chiefs, the marketplace for police chiefs is very tight in that there are lots of places looking for police chiefs and not a lot of people applying for those jobs with the skills or the expertise available. And so part of my goal here is to ensure that we are paying within the marketplace. You'll see this across a number of positions that are in place. An additional memo was included on your desk. I had 2 omissions in this, and they're outlined in yellow. First of was an accounts receivable clerk, where I'm recommending an additional $1 per hour, and then a library associate. This one is a part-time position, and I'm requesting an additional $1 per hour for that one as well. Again, as you look throughout the document and later within the resolution, you'll see part-time positions such as recreation leaders, public works, seasonal laborers, park rangers, and others, lifeguards, you name it, all of those positions are listed here, and those part-time positions are paid as shown within those scales. You'll notice that oftentimes we have those scales developed based on we say years of service, but really it's seasons of service. So if somebody's a lifeguard in 2020 and they came back in 2021, they would receive the next step up in that in years of service. And so that's been the practice that we've had for many, many years as we look forward in these. You do have a couple positions that are based on, that are more year-round part-time, that we based increases on that number of hours of service as they move up. An example of that can be found under circulation clerks, where they get a bump after they've worked 520 hours as a circulation clerk. Again, Mayor and members, I'm happy to provide additional information. I do have some great data related to where we are. There are a change or two that are included within these anomalies that relate to pay equity. We have a reporting year coming up. Well, really the reporting year is now at the end of December here for 2025. And so there's some pay equity issues that we're trying to address as a part of this. And again, Mayor Pro Tem and members, I'd stand for any questions and do the best I could to answer them.
That being said, are there any questions or comments for the city administrator on what is before you? Hearing none, there is a resolution which was placed on our desks before the meeting, establishing the 2025 wages for non-union, non-contract employees. Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem members, the only other thing that I want to mention, just as a point of clarification, is that typically this would start on January 1st. So in this instance, I'm looking to change our system just a little bit to start it coincident with a pay cycle. So that's why you'll see within the resolution, this would start on January 6th. That helps us as we move forward with retro payments and simplifies the payroll process quite a little bit. And so I just want to make sure that you understand, and that's pointed out as a part of the resolution and a part of the process. It would be my goal to ensure that that happens on future union contracts as well.
That being said, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Ramp?
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld?
Aye.
Councilmember Sharpstrom?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is the Law Enforcement Labor Services Local 241 union contract.
Mayor, members, as you know, you have 6 bargaining units within the city of St. Peter. This is the first one that we've come to conclusion on in negotiation of the union contract. You'll note that there are 3 issues that have been negotiated. The mayor and members have talked about this on a previous occasion in closed session, which you're allowed to do under Minnesota Statute 13.d. We have a signed agreement back, which is included in your packet from LELS, which is Law Enforcement Labor Services. This provides for the same contract as you've had in the past with 3 exceptions. The first of which is that this will be a 1-year contract for 2025. Obviously, previously it was for 2024, so this is for 2025. It would provide for an increase across the board for your officers, for your detectives, and your sergeants of 5%. This is driven by challenges within the marketplace, and there are fewer and fewer licensed police officers coming out of school or are available or are moving around, and there are lots of openings for police officers. So our goal continues to be within the marketplace within our area, and this, I believe, keeps us in that area. And then there are technical changes, whether there's a typo or a wording change or names or dates, those types of things happen generally throughout the contract. Again, this, as with your past item that you talked about with non-unionized folks, falls within the budget parameters that we've set and were recommended by staff. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about this one. Again, the contract is in your packet, and the resolution providing for approval with LELS for police officers really for the 2025 year is on page 239.
Any questions for Todd at this time? I do have a question. This has been approved by the union already?
This has been approved by the union. They have voted this. It is our practice that these do not come back for city council action until it has been signed and approved by the union. You'll see on page 38. Sometimes I don't have the signed copy in here, but this one has the signed version in the packet on page 238.
Thank you. Hearing that, is there a motion to approve the resolution approving the collective bargaining agreement with LELS 241 for the police officers for 2025?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Weisenfeld?
Aye.
Councilmember Sharpstrom?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mayor Pro Tem and members, the last item that I have for you is on page 240. This is a resolution calling for a closed session. This, I believe, is the 5th or 6th closed session you've had on this potential real estate transaction. You're allowed to have a closed session, and this would be for One Scholarship Way, and that's authorized under Minnesota Statute 13D. In this instance, I would expect that there's the potential that we will come back into regular session to take multiple actions. So we'll see. You'll have some additional discussion at your closed session. If we do not move forward in open session with action on this item, then you would come back into open session only to adjourn. But again, I anticipate that it's likely you will come back into open session. What we'll do, normally we go to a different room. In this instance, we'll stay here and discuss it. Tony will stay set up and ready to record just in case you come back in and choose to take some action. Again, Mayor Pro Tem and members, the resolution requesting a closed session is on page 240.
With that being said, is there a motion to approve the resolution calling for closed session? Oh, I'm sorry, Gary.
Would we do reports if we,
Yeah, did I jump ahead? I
Jumped
did jump
reports.
ahead. I am so sorry.
You missed your opportunity for reports.
Man, we can certainly do reports then, now, or later.
Let's do our reports now, as the
Okay.
agenda says. So, first report is the mayor. The mayor is not here, but I would like to, since this is our last regular scheduled council meeting for the year, I would like to thank all the city staff, all the department heads, and fellow council members here for I feel, a productive year, and I look forward to many great things to come next year. We've got a lot of things on our plate, and I'd like to thank everybody for all the hard work they put in, and also the residents of the city for trusting us and giving us direction on best way for the city to go. So that's my report. And then any council members, if you have any reports or anything you'd like to state at this time? Nothing?
Mayor Pro Tem and members, I have a resolution on the last page of the packet on 240, as I explained earlier, calling for a closed session.
With that being stated, did we do a motion second on this already? No. With that stated, is there a motion to approve the resolution calling for closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
aye?
Councilmember Ram.
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
We are in closed session.
Can we take 2 minutes so I can run to the bathroom quick?
Yeah. Take a little bit for everybody to clear out.
Get it?
All
Get
that
a
kind of stuff.
snack.
Council back into regular session. Administrator Prafke.
Mayor members, there's a recommendation, memo and information related to a number of closed sessions that you've had over the past few months at real estate transaction for One Scholarship Way in St. Peter. This is commonly known as the Scholarship America property. It's composed of a building that is approximately 40,000 square feet and sits on approximately 18 acres. City Council has talked about this property in a number of different ways, one of which is the potential acquisition of this property, which has been negotiated by staff based on your direction. The information is included in a packet that was laid on your table, and let me go through a couple of what I think are the most salient points related to this. First of all, this is driven by work that started prior to 2012 when the City Council did a space needs study of City Hall, then identified not only space needs related to your operations there. Since you started occupying that building in the mid-1960s, your community and your activity level has grown there, not just for administrative space, but for the police department, transit, and a number of other activities, finance department, community development, all kinds of things are going on in that building. So space needs and failures or challenges within the current building have been identified. That study first happened again in 2012, and then the council provided opportunity for a new study that started in 2023 and completed in January of 2024. That space study was presented to the City Council in January of this year. As a part of COVID, changes have occurred within the marketplace for commercial property within St. Peter, and one of those changes has been Scholarship America. So this building provided an opportunity for you to meet some needs that you would not have otherwise potentially met. Some of the opportunities that you reviewed or options that you reviewed related to City Hall include building or expanding on the current site, which had a price tag based on work that was done by ISG of anywhere from $10 to $13 million. You looked at a potential new building on some site yet to be determined with an estimated cost by ISG of about $13 million to meet the space needs and other needs that you have for utilization. We also examined upgrading your current building without an expansion of square footage, which was estimated at about $3 million. Again, that would not provide any expansion opportunity. You'd still have some of the same struggles, many of the same struggles that you have currently, and really, as Grandpa Prafke once told me, it's great to have a new saddle, but the horse will not run, your old horse won't run any faster. And so there's a need to ensure that you are looking forward, and the council, I think, has taken a great amount of time to not only negotiate, but think about where you want to be in the future on projects such as this. Some of the challenges that you see within the current building located at 227 South Front Street are listed within the packeted materials on what we would call page 1 of that additional packet. And you'll see a number of different things, many of which relate to Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and review of needs related to security for police departments, challenges related to ADA accessibility within the building, lack of space, lack of training space, lack of appropriate zone heating and air conditioning controls based on how many times the building's been chopped up many different ways. There's no secure entry for the police department nor for the rest of City Hall. There aren't really any meeting rooms or conference rooms left. They've all been occupied. You have a limited off-street parking, which has created some additional challenges as you've continued to grow. The police department they only have one interview room, and best practice for a community of our size would be to have 3, at least 2, but you only have 1. And those are all real challenges within the current facility that you have. So I talked about 3 major options that we looked at and have evaluated. I do want to mention a 4th one, which is that you could go to a scattered site, which might mean that the city administrator's office is in one building and finance is in one building and the police department's in another building and community development's in another building. And while that might be sort of kind of doable, and as we see real estate market changes here and availability change, it gets to be messy in a whole hurry and doesn't provide for convenience when we're trying to get together, let alone when we're trying to have meetings with some of your constituents and citizens that want to come in and talk about zoning rules or a water bill or wherever. Where do I go and how do I get all those things covered? So what we really have in this packet tonight is a recommendation from staff based on direction of the City Council to enter into 2 things here with Scholarship America. The first of which is a purchase agreement. The purchase price for this building would be $1.5 million. That would be due and payable towards the end of the first quarter of 2025. There's a lot of activity that would need to take place and remodeling that would need to occur within the current Scholarship America building to make it usable for all the things you have going in the City Hall, police department, administration, finance, community development, and transit. And so those are things that would go on. Second would be a lease. Many people are very aware of the property that's located there, and we have a lot of folks within St. Peter that have worked there one time or another. And so this would be Scholarship America leasing what I would call the old building, what most people in town know as the old building, but it's the southerlymost building located on the campus. All of this is all attached in one campus in one building through hallways, but this would be the southerlymost building, and they would be leasing just slightly less than 11,500 square feet. For that, they would pay approximately $145,000 a lease in lease funds, plus an additional sum for utilities to you, which goes to offset some of the cost. So the financial impact would be acquisition of about $1.5 million. Based on the information that you had studied and paid ISG to do work on related to a remodel, they're anticipating that a remodel or a rehabilitation of the building for your use would be approximately $6.3 million. That includes the development of specialized spaces for the police department, vaults, and some of these other things, but it also includes the addition of some parking, indoor parking for the police department and for transit as it moves forward. So that's included as a part of this as well. So I think that's important to know and understand. Should you decide to go forward, there are a number of activities that you would need to take action on within the not too distant future. And so it would certainly be with Scholarship America, which is the first memo to enter into a purchase agreement with them. And then as soon as you've entered that agreement, which they've already signed, enter into a lease with them so you have that secured. I would then ask you to engage ISG, who's done some of this work for you before, to do the specifications and design work, pre-design work and design work, and help get you to bids on this project. Bids would likely take place sometime in February or March-ish of 2025, and engage a construction manager, the same construction manager that you've utilized previously. R.W. Karlstrom, they worked on your fire station. They helped you build this building. They've worked on a number of projects for you. And so they're well-versed with what you do, and there's information included within the packet for that. One other thing that I want to show here is some of the financial analysis that we've done, and you'll find this included within the packet, I believe, on page 42 or page 46. So these really outline the 3 major opportunities or options that you have in front of you, one of which relates to the purchase of Scholarship America. And then it talks about our rehab estimate, the total acquisition and use, our net utilities based on leaving the location at 227 South Front Street. While the council hasn't made a decision on this, I would anticipate that you likely move forward with disposing of that building at some time in the future after you've occupied new facility. And that would be maybe an RFP process, much like you used for the old fire hall located on Mulberry. In addition to that, we have debt that's estimated here at approximately $507,000. That's on about $8 million in debt. We might anticipate that in today's market to be a little bit less, but we're trying to be conservative here and make sure that we're providing for all the costs that you might see. And then, of course, you'll see in that column lease payment from Scholarship America. Again, they'll be leasing approximately 11,500 square feet. I think it's important to point out that this facility provides additional opportunity for you to generate revenue and lease in two primary ways. One of which is there will be about 8,000-ish square feet that Scholarship is not going to be occupying, nor will you occupy. So that will be available for lease, and I would anticipate a process once there's clarity about the timeline for occupancy, that the council would initiate a process to provide lease opportunities for folks. The second that I'd mention, which I think is a little bit further out there that we haven't had much discussion on, would be, well, you've got 18 acres there. What are you going to do with that? It could be parks, it could be additional development, it could be housing, it could be all kinds of different things, and I don't know that we know what that is currently, and I think it's okay not to know. I think as you move forward, if you choose to move forward, lots of opportunities might present themselves, and so this creates a great chance for the city council to evaluate what's best for the community, not only from a community development standpoint, but from a revenue standpoint to offset some of the costs, which I know is really important as a part of this. So we would anticipate our yearly cost for occupying this building, which includes the utilities, all that kind of stuff, to be a little bit over $400,000 a year. I want to be very transparent with the council, and you've told me that you want to be very transparent about the data that we provide and information that's here. This could mean that you could have a levy increase, not a tax increase, not a tax rate increase, but a levy increase of approximately 10%. So that would mean, so as an example, earlier in your meeting tonight, you approved a 6.6 levy increase. So on a $250,000 house, no change in valuation, that's about $23, give or take a little bit. This then would be above and beyond that, which would make another $30, give or take a little bit, maybe $32 on top. And so we want to be as transparent as we can. There are a lot of variables within that tax information, but we can tell with great certainty what it does in relation to your levy, and that's what you see articulated here as a part of this spreadsheet, again, which is included in that packet. Let me get out of that spreadsheet. I know Mayor Pro Tem and members, you've talked about this many times, how this works, and there are still a lot of things that we don't exactly have answers for, and that's okay. But this is an opportunity that presents itself due to COVID and changes in Scholarship America's operational model that you wouldn't have had otherwise if we were looking to build or expand at the current location or build a new city hall at some point, whether it's next year or a couple of years. Again, from my perspective, starting this process in 2012, you'd be talking, anywhere from $2 to $3 to $5 million more to provide for the same opportunity for your community. Mayor Pro Tem and members, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. There's an extensive amount of information in your packet, really from page 1. That includes the purchase agreement. That includes a mock-up, that includes review of ISG, of the mechanicals and the structural and the electrical of the building that you may or may not purchase. And so I'll leave it with that before we move on to other opportunities as a part of this.
With that being presented, are there any questions or comments from the council members at this time?
First off, that was really well worded and explained.
Thanks, I appreciate that. I know you've been thinking about this for a long time. We've had the opportunity to discuss it on multiple occasions. I know the council's taken great pains to weigh a lot of different options in this. And this is an opportunity option that provides really probably the most cost-effective chance you're gonna get to make an investment long into the future for a city hall. Many of the other options are so much more expensive. And opportunity knocks, and are you ready or not ready for that?
Additional comments, Carrie?
I didn't see it in here. Remind us the current square footage of our current building, the building that we occupied in 1965.
Just a little bit over 8,000 square feet, and there's a portion of that that isn't handicap accessible and doesn't meet some of the standards and those, yeah.
And the space would be occupying for city operations would be,
Yeah, for police and for city and for transit would be approximately half of the Scholarship America facilities, maybe more accurately 2/3. People that are familiar with the building, if you drive into the parking lot and you look at it, it's kind of built into 3 modules and then the old building. You would occupy essentially, assuming the council continues to move forward, the 2 northerly most modules there, or bays. The 3rd bay, which is the bay between the old building and the area that we would occupy, again, is about 8,000 square feet, give or take just a little bit. And then the old building, again, is approximately 11,500 square feet.
yeah, so when I look at the spreadsheet that you just put up, I see us getting a lot more bang for a square footage buck when it comes to purchasing Scholarship America versus renovating our current site. I just want to comment that I believe the council's been really thoughtful about this. We started this out with reviewing the space needs study from 2012, decided that we wanted an updated space needs study, weighed a lot of different options. Is it better to completely do a new build? Does it make sense to renovate our current building, purchase a different property? And so to me, it is not an option to stay in the current building for very much longer. Primarily the list in the memo is pretty all-encompassing, but I just feel like for me, the most pressing issues would be the lack of square footage, of course, but it's just completely inadequate, not only for our police department, but for everybody in that space. Our finance department's in there, our community development department's in there, city administration, IT. It's not ADA accessible. The whole building is wonky. I think they've made the best use of the spaces city staff have could for as long as they have, but it just doesn't make sense anymore. It's like stepping back in a time machine, and it's not serving our city very well anymore. There is a major security issue in both the police department and the rest of the building. Not a lot of opportunities to grow in that space either. So when it comes to the opportunity of Scholarship America, again, we're getting, it's a great opportunity to save the taxpayers a tremendous amount of money. Had we gone the route of a new build, that would have been, it says here in the memo, $2 to $5 million more than what we're estimating here. So again, the council's been very thoughtful about. We know that we need we need a new space. That's a given. And then also, what's the best opportunity, and to do what we can to lessen the impact on the taxpayers, because at the end of the day, they are contributing heavily, but they're also getting the services provided by the city staff and city hall. And I think this is a really important move. It's not always popular to build a new city hall, to renovate, to make that space better. But I believe that that's why we're putting this role to make these difficult decisions and to move the work forward. And so I think that this is a very good opportunity, and I'm excited to support it.
Ben? A couple things to just piggyback on what Councilmember Johnson just talked about. In looking at building a new building, that would be $2 to $5 million more than this plan. That would be if we built it today, if we started on it today. Now, if we wait 2, 3, 4, 5 years, a $10 to $13 million building becomes 12 to 15, 12 to 16, 14 to 18 million dollars. I mean, things change so much. We've got an opportunity to cut that savings basically in half. I mean, if we think about the top end of a $16 million new building today that we would build in 5 years, we've got a huge savings here. We also do have a chance to take a look at these estimates when they come in for the remodel, and to try and curb and do any savings that we can so we can continue to be good stewards of tax dollars. And for that reason, I also think that this is a good option and the best one that we have at this point in time.
It's not often that you can look at local municipalities and or government and say that they're making good business decisions. But when you take a step back and you look at the cost of the options, you look at the potential of if we move this down the road, how much more it would cost, as Representative Ram said. But then if you just look at, as Representative Johnson pointed out, we're in an 8,000 square foot building right now. We have approximately 8,000 square feet that would be available for a second renter or partner in this building to help offset the debt services. So not only are we looking at this option being cheaper, we're getting a portion of the debt services covered by providing opportunities for other businesses or nonprofits to be on the site.
Anyone else? Administrator, would you be willing to read in Councilmember DeVos's letter to the council?
Yeah, Mayor and members, Councilmember DeVos could not be here tonight, so he asked this to be read into the record. So this is information that I received from him. It says, I'm unable to attend the meeting this week, so I'm writing to express my support for the purchase of the property currently owned by Scholarship America. This is an opportunity that the City Council should not pass up. The City of St. Peter is facing multiple expensive challenges at its current municipal space, including state-mandated updates to our police facilities, aging mechanicals requiring replacement, lack of space for expanded staffing required to serve growing community, including both police and administrative employees. According to Beacon Search for Nicollet County, the current municipal building was built in 1967. Since 1970 census, the population of St. Peter as of 2024 has grown by approximately 4,000 residents, or almost 50%. And that growth has continued at a consistent pace. The need for a new facility to handle this growth is apparent. After extensive review over the last year, the acquisition and renovation of Scholarship America site will save the taxpayers of St. Peter millions of dollars compared to either the expansion of the current facility or building new on a different site. In addition to the cost savings of the facility, the site comes with 18 acres of land, an amount that may not be available at an affordable rate if we purchase vacant land for new construction. It also provides the opportunity to redevelop the current municipal site into something that enhances our growing downtown business district. The current building has served the city for almost 60 years, but its usefulness as a municipal facility is at an end. We have expected opportunity to acquire space to serve St. Peter for another 60 years, and I believe it would be financially negligent of us to pass up the purchase of this site. Signed by Councilmember Brad DeVos.
With that letter being read, I'll wait till the end here. I also do support this. This is a gift that was dropped upon us. We were able to take a look at the building, imagine what could be done there. We've done some legwork as far as architects on what's possible. It looks like it works. They gave us some schematics that are a unique space that would work very well for, I believe, for our city for a long time in the future. We are getting quite a bit of space at a much reduced price. We are being sustainable. We are reusing a facility that is reusable as a well-built facility that should serve our purpose for a long time. I believe we'll be good stewards with that property, and I believe this is a good move for the city and the city council, and I do fully support this acquisition. With that, on page 43 of the packet which was handed out, there is a resolution entering into a purchase agreement for property located at 1 Scholarship Way. With that, I would ask for a motion.
So moved.
Motion and a second. At this time, is there any further discussion from the council? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Pettis.
Yes, aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp.
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Motion carries. There are a couple of other resolutions. Do you want to discuss the resolution on the architecture hire?
Mayor Pro Tem and members, yeah, if I could include it in your packet here, I believe it starts on page 45, is information related to hiring ISG of Mankato. As I mentioned earlier, they provided much of the research information. I think I know they provided much of the research information related to the mechanicals and the structural and all of that work. In addition to that, the lead architect who would be spearheading this project, should you choose to engage them, actually did architecture as the building was built originally in the late 1990s, which can be super helpful and provide for some efficiencies moving forward. The resolution would provide for hiring ISG of Mankato to provide the architectural and related work for rehabilitation or remodel of the Scholarship America building located at 1 Scholarship Way. If you do move forward with this tonight, we'll move in a speedy fashion, not, again, the goal would be to get to bids hopefully sometime the end of February into early March, so that you have bids in your hands before the closing on the property occurs. It's important from a financial aspect to do this as efficiently as we can, and this provides that opportunity for you. Again, this group also provided for your space needs study and has a keen and really well-documented understanding of what your space needs looks like for your operations, not only for your police department, but for your administrative offices and for transit moving forward. Again, the information is included, and a scope of services is included in the packet with the resolution on page 51 to engage ISG from Mankato to do that work for you.
Are there any further questions on the resolution for the architectural services? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution hiring architect for Scholarship America Building Remodel Project, Police Station, City Hall, and Transit as found on page 51?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp?
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld?
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Mayor members or Mayor Pro Tem and members, the next item that you have starts on page 52. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, we forgot,
one.
didn't do lease agreement. We should do that as well. So after the purchase of Scholarship America, we do have a lease that was provided and has been negotiated with Scholarship America, as I mentioned. That information is also included in your packet that provides and directs the city administrator and the mayor to enter into a lease with Scholarship America. The documentation includes a 60-month lease with options attached to that. So this, I think, falls in line with generally what we've talked about previously. We've talked about 4 years, this is 60 months. And so I think there's a great opportunity. They wish to stay there and continue some of their operations in that 11,500 square foot. Again, this would be located in that southerlymost building, or what, at least in my world, we commonly refer to as the old Scholarship America building.
Ben?
Real quick, just to clarify, you said 60 months?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think I
thought it
mentioned
was
before
4
4,
plus
but
2.
it's 60 months.
Okay,
It's 5 plus 2, 5 plus, you may,
okay.
double checked.
So we added an extra, so
Yep.
it's 5,
5
5 guaranteed,
Yep,
and then 2 for the renew.
yep.
And
Okay.
that's not to say they won't extend beyond the 2.
Yep,
That's
okay,
the option they have.
sounds good.
With that clarification, there is a resolution entering into a lease agreement for property located at 1 Scholarship Way, page 44. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second. With that, is there additional discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Ramp?
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld? Councilmember Sharstrom?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mayor
Next
Pro
item.
Tem and members, page 52 is for construction management. The memo here outlines, and the proposed resolution is to hire R.W. Carlstrom Mankato to provide for construction management, construction manager at-risk process, which we're utilizing for any wastewater treatment plant upgrades, which you utilized for your fire station build, which you've utilized on a couple other projects moving forward. RW has provided services for a couple of those projects, is located within the area, has a good knowledge and understanding of local contractors, and will help us move through a number of processes within this overall work to occur, which includes pre-design through bidding and through construction and general services. Again, the information's included in your packet along with their proposal. And as I make my fingers do the talking, page number 80 is the resolution. Thanks, Darrell.
At this time, is there additional questions or comments for the city administrator? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution hiring construction manager at risk for Scholarship America Remodel Project, Police Station, City Hall, and Transit?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Ram.
Aye.
At this time, is there any additional business to be brought before the city council meeting?
Mayor Pro Tem and members, I don't have anything else on your agenda for this evening, and as you mentioned earlier, this is the last regular meeting of the year for the city council. You'll meet in workshop that first week of January, and the second Monday of January, you'll come back into regular session.
Any additional business from the members? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. See you next year.
Nice work, nice work.